Okay, good evening. As promised, I'm going to do an additional recording here during my weekly lecture. My screen sharing skills were limited, and you couldn't see Word and EndNote while I was talking. So I'm going to go back and do that again a little bit here tonight. This won't take very long. Um, so I want to go back and share my screen. And hopefully your screen will go dark here for a moment. And we'll bring up Word. Okay, so when you're writing and you have Microsoft Word and EndNote, like I do, you'll have them both running. You can tell you have EndNote installed correctly if you have this tab. This allows you to interface with the references that you've stored in EndNote and do some of the magic that you heard me talking about. Hopefully, you listened to the lecture, even if the visuals weren't too good. So anyway, you'll have Word up, and here's EndNote. You heard me talking about it, but this is the main. This is all my references. 732 references. So I don't think that's um, I don't think that's too many. Thinking back over all of my coursework and all of the assignments during that coursework, and then of course your dissertation. Having hundreds and hundreds of references in your library, not in any one document, but in your library, is probably not extreme. But you'll see some of these aren't. Some of these are more useful than others. So anyway, that's the library, and one of the nice features is that you can create groups or folders to organize uh, your references. Like here, I have what 29, and I have full text. If you see the paperclip here, that means I have the PDF for that reference loaded. A lot of these you get either from the university library, or I find them either on the internet, on the author's website, or you'll see them in Google Scholar. You'll often see full text. I can't recommend Google Scholar strongly enough. I always start there. And then when I see a reference that I can't get full text, then I go to the library and check to see if I can find it in one of our subscriptions. And if I can't find it there, I'll contact the librarian and say, hey, couldn't find this at the library, but it sounds like a key piece of literature for my research project. Can you please reach out and get it? And sometimes they'll be able to do interlibrary loan. Um, so anyway, this honestly, uh, I can't recommend this strongly enough. Between Google Scholar, EndNote, Word, the management of these references is really magic. So what I was showing you in class is that I start with a blank Word document. I may want to prove some point in class discussion. I may want to prove um, that uh, enterprise social media, like I think the example used in was enterprise social media blogs create ascent. And I know this from my reading. I'm writing this on my own right now. Enterprise social media. I usually capitalize all that. Enterprise social media, or ESM blogs have been shown to create a sense of community among workers. And I know this to be true. I have Slack at work. I've had SharePoint at work. Um, Blogs allow you to create content that somebody can go to and then they can comment on it. as opposed to keeping everything in email or shared drives. Um, so as a group collaboration solution, this is what my dissertation was about. So anyway, so I know that's a true statement. Okay. So, but I want to reinforce that, and you will get used to reinforcing things in your writing as well. I want to reinforce that with a quote, and I know I have articles that talk about blogs and talk about the sense of community that they foster. So I go over to Endnote. I was in Word. You'll see where my cursor is here. I create a space for the citation to go in, and then I go over to Endnote and I find my ESM focused articles, 78 of them, and I can search here for blog, and it'll bring up assessing the value of corporate blogs. Okay, I think this was probably the article that I was using um, in my lecture that you couldn't see. So since I have the full text, you can see here the paperclip. We'll go ahead and pull that article up. I double click, and it brings up the details of my reference, the journal, the year, the authors, the pages, all kinds of different information about the reference. Um, so then you see in this tab there, this is the PDF. This is the actual article um, coming from IEEE. So here I want to make sure that I'm using uh, a reference. I'm using a an established author or authors to reinforce what I'm saying. It adds validity. It adds credibility to your work. You can't in your dissertations. Beg your pardon. In your dissertations, you can't make a statement of fact in your 100-page document. You can't make one statement of fact that isn't backed up by a reference. You'll read in my dissertations in the classroom. Everything I say, every statement was backed up by a reference. And if you go to that reference, you'll see somewhere in that article. If I didn't, I don't do direct quotes, but um, you'll find the basic sentiment of what I cited. Now, our findings here. This is what I want you to focus on. Our findings. So they did a study. Dr. Bear and Dr. Alex Brown did a study, and their findings indicate that a corporate blog can be used as a sustainable forum leading to a shared understanding of organizational roles. That's different. Increased sense of group cohesiveness. Now, I would say that what I said in Word, a sense of community, is a good way to rephrase, paraphrase what they said here, a sense of group cohesiveness. So, and improved work process, improved professional and personal ties, personal and professional ties among employees. That's a sense of community. So I used my words. I put their findings that you see highlighted here. Highlight that in yellow. I rephrase that in my own words. And if I were over here in Word and I were writing along, I would use their findings to build my case, but I would be doing the writing. You heard me talking in the other lecture about cutting and pasting. Uh, here's the other magic about EndNote. So if I go back to my, and I don't want to save that highlight. If I go back here, and this is highlighted, this is where I was talking about in the other lecture. I can go to Endnote and I can say insert selected. And then it manages them in alphabetical order, as I said in the other lecture. And so all I have to do is go down here and create a references section. And there you have it. It's magic. And when you're cooking along and you know these pieces, you'll be reviewing literature. You'll get really familiar with the main pieces of literature that support your project. And when you're booking along writing, it's so convenient to be able to just say insert selected. So that's how EndNote works. But I'll go ahead and say this again because it's so important. Um, we'll bring up that we'll bring this up again. Now, as I said in my introductory lecture, please no direct quotes. No, don't say according to Smith 2018 and then a full sentence from them. That you won't see that really much at all in academic writing, if at all, in good journals. It's kind of lazy. It's frowned upon. So you need to do what I did, which is paraphrase their work. Now, if you look up the definition of paraphrasing, you will sometimes see rewording. This is what I had just really a lot of trouble with in the summer term. Was someone would go here and they'd pull up an article, and I would ask, well, this is an example. We didn't talk about blogs. We don't talk about blogs. But for example, if I were in a class teaching about, enterprise collaboration, and I asked, what are the importance of a blog? It can be tempting to just go down here and highlight this. And this is bad, bad, bad practice. And I'll copy that and I'll paste it. And maybe the discussion question was, uh, why are corporate blogs valuable? And say that was in the instructions for a discussion question. And then somebody will come along and they'll paste that in there. And I've seen people in class discussion that left our findings. So they're fraudulently writing that they're the researchers. They're posing as the actual author. It's horrible, or it's horrible, horrible practice. But what I would find sometimes is they would change R, maybe our, to researcher, and then they would go, oh, trying to beat the plagiarism checker. This is all just to try and beat the system, and it takes more time to do this than it does to just write your own words. Researcher, and they don't say findings. They go find a word in the in the thesaurus. Researcher findings would be indications, and then they need a new word for indicate. So they would say view, and then they maybe they leave the corporate blog, and instead of use, they change it to utilized. See, and this is not writing. This is not writing your own work. If I see this sort of thing, And then, because of the language barrier for sustainable, they'll say make permanent. And another word for forum is um, speaking area. And leading to instead of shared, they would, anyway, you see what I'm getting at? Uh, Research or indications view the corporate blog can be utilized as a make permanent speaking area. Yeah, and I know some of you are probably wondering why I'm spending time about that, but you'll see in class discussion occasionally. Well, hopefully you won't. I saw it every discussion question. The majority of students would do this rewording thing, cut and paste and reword. And that's also plagiarism. And even if it's, beats the plagiarism checker, if it looks like the structure of someone else's work, another part of academic dishonesty is poorly paraphrasing. And that's what this is. Changing the words around is poorly paraphrasing. If you want to use someone else's work, then you have to understand it well enough to speak about its essence, and then cite it so that when I go look at it, I go, yeah, you're right. Like I said here, it does foster a sense of community. These guys did, because we went and we found this professional and personal ties. That's paraphrasing. So that's what I'm going to be looking for from your writing. So that's how Word works, and that's how Endnote works. Um, the university doesn't provide or support any particular bibliographic software. So in that regard, you're kind of on your own. But then you're PhD students, so I mean, come on, we're all well into our careers here. So it shouldn't be too tough to go out and get some software. EndNote, I looked at the student pricing. I think it's $113, I think, and it seems like they're on version 9. Um, so it would be the best $113 that you spent in this course, and you'll see, if you see someone rewording in class discussion, please call them on it. If you see someone posting something and it doesn't track with the discussion instructions, and it doesn't help you, that's the whole reason we're doing these discussions, is to help each other learn. If it's way off topic and it's obviously something that they found on the internet and posted in there and reworded, please help me by calling them on it. If someone replies to your post that you carefully wrote and researched, and they say, good post, I want to add, and then they just paste some nonsense they found on the internet, please call them on it. I want to, I want to see uh, true discussion where you're talking to each other in professional language, but no kidding, you're talking to each other. You're not just throwing nonsense, garbage from the internet at each other, which I have seen. I've seen it. It's unsettling, and it's not something that's going to help you. Not if you do it, and not if you let your classmates get away with it. So I would encourage you to professionally, politely, uh, caution your classmates against cutting, pasting, rewording, uh, posting something that's just trying to fill the block. That's just a post. Because I read them all. You might have seen. in the class discussion area, I'm fairly active. Um, and I won't give credit for garbage. This is a doctorate. You guys are going to be called doctor, and that's important. And it's important to do a good job. So I'm going to get off of my soapbox, as they say proverbially, my high horse, and I'm going to wish you a good evening. And I sure hope this recording worked well and that you found it informative. And I will see you in the classroom environment.